All right, all right, all right. You're listening to the Talking Football podcast. I'm Weston. With me, as always, the right hand man, Lou. Lou, we continue down the yellow brick road that is known as the free agency period for the 2023 NFL season. Back looking at the North divisions. This evening, we'll focus in on the NFC North teams. Quick reiteration: we divide and conquer the division. You take two teams, I take two teams. We act as the general managers, and this is all about what Lou, the GM, and Weston, the GM, think that these teams should do. We don't claim to know what they're going to do. This is what we would do in those scenarios. So, like I said on the docket, NFC North, um, I stole our second favorite team, so I'm excited about that. Now you got to trench forward the best you can in this lowly division. Who are we starting with tonight?
The Bears. They're
Bears.
they're probably the most exciting team to talk about, and we'll talk in a little bit.
All
Right.
right, let me put you on the clock. Clock starts now for the Bears.
All right. So I am the general manager of the Chicago Bears, and we have over $94 million in cap space. Um, I have a lot of work to do, but I have a lot of resources to do it.
Does it
Uh,
matter?
yeah. I'm excited. Listen, last year I felt like our team were scrappy. We played tough. But obviously, we didn't have the players to be serious, contenders and compete as much as I thought, we could. This, that changes this year, and basically, I'm going to make it rain because I smell blood in the water. I know my rival out there in Green Bay, they're going to possibly get a little weaker. Finally, Aaron Rodgers is out of this division. I'm saying it. I'm marking it. I'm from a firm believer he's no longer going to suit up with the Green Bay Packers anymore. So that means it's open season. Anyone can compete for the NFC North, and why not us? And a couple of things I want to do this offseason. I want to get a big name wide receiver for Fields and a stud offensive lineman as well. All right, I gotta support Fields. I do feel like he's our guy. Um, so in the ideal world, maybe looking to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think it fits the narrative of where our team is heading. Um, so I'm looking perhaps for maybe a little younger players, right? And Alan Lazard. I really want to stick it to Green Bay, keep him in division, right? Or maybe a Jacoby Myers, uh, to add to this team, add to this receiving core. As for offensive linemen, I'm going all in on Orlando Brown, right? Uh, he wasn't tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs. I just need to have, I'm a former fat boy myself. I just need to have to improve this offensive line because Fields is great. He can run the ball, whatever. But where he needs improvement is his decision making, and he's not the quickest to decipher defenses and what have you. So I need my offensive lineman to hold up. So I'm looking at Orlando Brown. I'm happy though, bringing in Caleb McGarry, Mike McGlinchey, Taylor Lewan, or Jawan Taylor, anyone to help address my offensive tackle position. Uh, here this offseason. I also want to improve the defense. I need to get an edge rusher, but don't really see any on the off and the free agents that I like. So I'm probably looking to the draft. That being said, if I can't get an edge rusher, I want some help in the middle of my defense, in the linebacker core. My head coach, Eberflus, had a stud middle linebacker in Leonard with the Colts. So I'm looking at T.J. Edwards, maybe a David Long, a Bobby Okereke, because he did play for Eberflus, right? But my prime possession would be Tremaine Evans. Bring him in. He's still young. He's still ascending. He's growing. He's an athletic, quick linebacker, and I really would love to add him to the middle of that defense as well. Last but not least, I'm focusing on the draft because I think that's where we're going to get uh, the majority of our playmakers. And I'm trading back. Ideally, I want to trade back multiple times, right? And if I do so, I'm willing. I will go back to picks 12 to 14. I'm fine by that to accumulate additional draft capital. And at that time, that 12 to 14th range, I'll just take a Bijan Robinson to pair up with Justin Fields, right? But if I only can get enough capital to go back a spot or two, I'm probably settling on Will Anderson or Carter from Georgia to give like a name to that defense. So those are the moves I'm making. Getting some wide receivers, getting some offensive line, and then pretty much focusing on the draft.
It's almost like a really easy job if you're the general manager of the Bears right now, but a very difficult job because your team stinks, right?
They're scrappy.
But it's kind of what we were talking about with the Steelers when we were talking about the AFC North. Like, you're not just a piece away, so you need to be prudent. There's nothing it's not like, hey, we just had an injury riddled year. We're picking 1 overall, like just because it's a bad scenario. Like, I think of when the 49ers were able to draft Nick Bosa in whatever it was, 19, right? Or 2019. That was because we lost our quarterback in 2018. Injuries like derailed us tremendously. So we were fortunate to have a pretty deep team picking at number 2 overall to begin with. That was favorable. That's not the case. I love the strategy of trading back if they're, especially in what could see 4 quarterbacks go in the first round. Like, find one of these teams that wants to slide up to get.
It could be a bloodbath, and the Bears can be holding a lot of the pieces here, and they control the draft,
and you'll get a lot, right? Like, I just remember when the Bears traded up to get Mitch Trubisky, and they swapped with the 49ers and went 2 to 3.
So
what they
what
gave
that?
up to go one pick was crazy.
Do you remember or no, off the top of your head?
I think it was a second, a third, and then like a third the following year to go 1 pick.
Yeah.
And we used that second to trade back into the first round. That was the year we took Solomon Thomas and then Reuben Foster at the back half of the first round.
Bad draft.
Yeah. We don't draft well in the early rounds, but I'll save that for when it's time to talk about the AFC and NFC Wests.
Okay.
But it's one of those things, man. Like, we know cap carries, right? Like, it carries over. Like, do we need to rush to spend $100 million? Like, shouldn't.
Here's the thing, Weston. They have to make sure they get the right guys. And they have so many holes. There's no way they're going to be able to address them this year. So what I really think they should do is focus on the offensive side of the ball, because you want to protect Fields. You don't want him to go into Sam Darnold mode and seeing ghosts and stuff like that. You want to also evaluate him, right? Yep. Because guess what? Let's say you trade back and get multiple first-round picks next year. Guess what you can do if you're not in the top 5 of picks? You can trade those to get one of those 2 quarterbacks, either from USC or UNC, coming out. So you need to evaluate Justin Fields, and you have to give him a fair shot to see if he's the man. So you got to build an offensive line, and you got to give him another weapon on the at the wide receiver position, and like I said, get maybe one defensive signature piece.
I think this is the time. The next year or 2 is the time where, like, you start building the trenches, right, and playing bruising NFC North football, and you start. I agree, protecting your most valuable asset, which is your quarterback. The skill players will come, right? Free agency will present new opportunities the following year. An off season this year is going to present new opportunities to be drafting high again next year. It's not about 2023 for the Chicago Bears. It's about 2024 and beyond, if you ask me. Cool. So next up, I'm going to go with the Detroit Lions. So walking into this year with $22.4 million in cap space, we were 9-8 last year, coming off a season showcasing a lot of promise, right? You and I, to start the year, talked about this would be a rising team, and they did not fail us. But here's what I need to prioritize as the general manager. We are now entering year 3 of the Jared Goff bridge quarterback experiment. He counts for $31 million against the cap. That's an expensive bridge to build. So where are we in terms of the quarterback? Now, listen, Jared hasn't disappointed, right? Like, I think he's played pretty darn well, and this offense has been high flying. I believe he has exceeded my expectations as the general manager of this football team, but I still know it's the most important position. So I look at the draft board. I got 2 first-round picks this year. Who's sitting out there that could be had for 2 first-round picks? And I'm probably ahead of the pack because I can give them to you both this year, not just 1 and 1. I can give them to you both this year if I wanted to. I am pushing chips all in to go get Lamar Jackson. There's enough pieces around here. I need Lamar. But I'll take a false step. Assuming Lamar does not leave, right? And the Ravens are the prudent franchise that we know them to be, and they're playing the fiscal game, and Lamar will be back in Baltimore. I also picked 6 overall. Does Stroud fall? Is Levis my guy? Does Anthony Richardson continue to ascend up the draft boards based on, his combine and ultimately his pro day? Like, I have options. And the reason, so let's say Lamar fails, Goff stays. Any guy that I might take at 6 overall, if I'm taking a quarterback there, if I'm entertaining it, I don't want to give all my cards away. I don't want to tip the teams ahead or behind me. Goff is still the bridge. He's a bridge for another year, but I can't have him be that bridge at 31 million, right? Like, I want more cap because we are in a position to compete right now. So other ways that I'm looking to free up cap. Romeo Okwara, cutting with a post-June 1st designation. That's $11 million in savings. Reality is he's a good player, but he's played 9 games in the last 2 years, right? I'd rather have that $11 million and add to my existing cap space to be really, really aggressive, even though it does pay me to split up the brother duo of the Okwara brothers who are on this team. It's the prudent thing to do. Got to be honest with you, Lou. I'm kind of tempted to bring back Jamal Williams again. I know this was an exceptional year, a year that he'll never replicate in terms of how he's getting into the end zone, but he is clearly a locker room guy. Our team loves him. Our coaches love him. He solves goal line opportunity problems for a team and has a knack for finding the end zone. If I can have him a little cheaper than he probably wants and he wants to stay in this culture, I'm open. I'm really open to that opportunity. But I will say this, we will be spenders in this free agency. For the first time in a long time, this division feels very, very winnable when I look around the rest of the conference, the rest of the division. St. Brown, stud. Love what I have in Jamison Williams. I know we didn't get this. We only saw a sample size of him at the tail end of the year, and it wasn't a whole lot. No reason to rush him back. But I know what I traded up for and drafted, and I'm feeling really good about that. Here's if Goff is still the guy another year, I'm tempted to bring in Robert Woods and reunite them as that third option, that gimmick guy, plays a little closer to the line of scrimmage. They clearly have chemistry. Robert Woods' best years were in LA when Jared was the quarterback. That's something that I'm pressing on. Here's my heavy press on the offensive side of the ball. We got rid of TJ Hawkinson last year to Minnesota. I'm all in on Dalton Schultz. All in on Dalton Schultz. Bringing back that tight end threat. I just got to have it. Got to have all phases of the offense, right? Then I'm feeling really good. DeAndre Swift in the backfield. St. Brown, Jamison Williams, maybe even a Robert Woods floating around out there. Having the tight end, like that's complimentary football. We look really good on the offensive side. Where did the Lions lack last year? And we talked about it a lot. Defense. This is my primary focus, mainly across the defensive line. I have money. I want to bring in some veterans. I want to look at Arden Key, Samson Ebukam, maybe even a Frank Clark, even though I don't love the culture fit. But this is, I think now is the time. We need a steady presence at linebacker in division. Eric Hendricks just released. Maybe it's Levante David, a veteran presence. Maybe it's a Tremaine Edmonds from Buffalo. A lot of names that can maybe anchor the middle for another year or two while we're primed and ready to win football games. And Kenley, I'm in on any safety, all safeties. Doesn't matter, right? I'm on the phone already with Jesse Bates. Sorry, that's collusion. They'll take away a pick from me. I'll be talking to Jesse Bates' agents, right? I'll be talking to all of them. Poyer, Jimmy Ward, the list goes on. You name them, we're kicking because we have money and few teams have money, and we're young, we're eager. It's time to go. Detroit is going to be a force to be reckoned with next year for the first time in a long time.
Love the Lamar Jackson to Detroit scenario there, because they have the draft picks that wouldn't cripple them. Then they can shed $20 million from Goff to reinvest around Lamar or on that defense, right? So I love that. We were talking about, I'm not sure, it was like an episode or two ago. Picture Lamar in a dome, right?
We talked about with the Falcons what he would do, right? Like
Yeah.
Vic-esque, right?
Exactly. So picture Lamar in a dome. Picture the offensive line of the Lions are pretty damn good too.
Yes, they are.
Have the rushing attack. That offense would be pretty damn scary. Defense needs a lot. Defense still needs a pseudo facelift, right? And they're not, trending in the right direction and what have you. But they do need to add more talent along that defense, and that's what you have the draft for. But love the Lamar. It can't. That's what needs to happen, and I feel like he would be this young figurehead for this young ascending team, to really compete in that NFC North.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this offense was high flying last year under Goff, right? And the reason why you didn't hear as much about how porous the defense was is because they won more games than they lost, right? And they beat some divisional opponents when they haven't beat in the past. But like a Lamar cures a lot of woes on the defensive side of the ball. You know
What
what I
I
mean?
also liked you said is Robert Woods, and let's say they don't get Lamar. Robert Woods, no matter where he's gone, he's an able and willing and pretty damn good run blocker.
Yep.
So he was with the Rams, and one thing the Rams did, extremely well back then was run the football. And then their offense was predicated over the football, them play action bootlegs, right? Then he went to Tennessee. I get it. Didn't really materialize there, but he's willing to get his nose, in there and get dirty. And the Lions want to be a more physical team, and that'd be a real good fit. That would replace DJ Shark, and they could do that because even though Shark's a deep threat, Woods is not. He's more of your possession guy, but they got Jameson Williams, so like they already have that deep threat there. So that would be a savvy move. I don't think they go tight end, to be frank. I just don't feel like that offense values the tight end position that much, hence the trade. I think it's more about running and those receivers. So,
Yep, I agree. Who up next?
well, the only other team for me is the Green Bay Packers.
Snooze.
Nothing exciting going on with that.
Let me start the clock on you, bro. Let's talk about them cheeseheads.
Yeah. So I am the general manager of the Green Bay Packers, and everything's fine. Everything's good. Everything is fine. We're good. We're fine. Everything's good. I gotta figure out this Aaron Rodgers bullshit. To be honest with you, I'm over his theatrics. I'm tired of him holding us hostage, and I'm nervous that last year was a sign of things to come. Let me get some cap relief and compensation for this 39-year-old guy. Give me two. I'm calling the Jets. Give me 2 twos. Go ahead, take them. 2 twos, eat the salary. I'm done with them. I'm done, I'm telling you. It's time for us to see what Love can do. And guess what? If Love fails miserably, then we're picking early next year's draft, and maybe we can get a quarterback there. All right? So it's a win-win. I just want this guy away from me. He keeps me up at night. I'm tired of him. I'm tired of his egomaniac ways. Now, I want to set Jordan Love up for success, right? And I want to, in order to do that, I'm not going to bring a tremendous amount of external free agents and just throw them in the mix. I want to bring back my main guy, Alan Lazard. I think that's imperative. That's going to provide continuity from the offensive scheme. Lazard knows what we're trying to do. There'll be no learning curve on his end. he will, so I'm bringing back Alan Lazard. But I also wanted to address the tight end position because I think it's imperative. If Love gets in trouble, what's the old adage? The tight ends are the safety blanket when shit goes down. So I'm looking either into the draft for a tight end because it is an extremely deep draft for tight ends, or I'm looking at Dalton Schultz. I'm looking at Mike Gesicki. I'm looking at Hayden Hurst, someone that can provide me some production because I haven't had production since Mark Chamora, to be honest with you, in Green Bay at the tight end position. So I'm not sure if some of our listeners might be too young to even know who the hell that is. So I'm looking into getting another weapon for him over the middle. And I got to beef up my defensive line. This is my last thing I need to do. The 49ers have been our bugaboo for many, many years. And it's because how much more physical they are up front than we are. So I need to add some talent along the trenches, along the defensive line. So I'm swinging big here. All right. I am going for the home runs here, reminiscent of us bringing in Julius Peppers, right? I'm looking for Javon Hargrave, Dalvin Tomlinson, or even Draymond Jones. All can be our physical disruptors that can play the run well and also provide pressure in the interior of in the interior defensive line. So those are the moves I'm looking to bring at least one of those guys in because I already have the edge rushers in Rashawn Gary and Smith. So why not bring a little more and pressure and team him up with my other all pro defensive tackle and Kenny Clark. So those are the moves I'm making. I think the most important part is this. It's addition by subtraction here. Bye, Rodgers.
Yeah. This is the year, right? I mean, enough's enough. I feel like at this point, a once very proud franchise is like being made a fool.
Man, they're used to it.
Player.
No, they've done this with Favre.
I know.
I've told
you know what?
This is destiny.
Right. So this team has had 2 quarterbacks for 30 years.
That's crazy.
And they've won 2 Super Bowls with those guys.
Hey, at least I won something.
No, listen, I get it, right? Like my team hasn't won a Super Bowl in 28 years.
Shut up.
But you know what I mean? Like if you were to be like, if I was to say to you, yo, your franchise only had 2 quarterbacks over a 30-year period, right? The only thing that's even close to that impressive is if you go back and look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, that they've had 3 head coaches over the last 40 years, right? Yeah. Like that's crazy too. But if I was to say, hey, the only 2 quarterbacks that you have had over the last 30 years are Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. You're thinking multiple Super Bowls, right? Multiple Super Bowls for each of them. And they haven't. I think it's time to punt. It's probably 2 years too late, where you could have gotten more from them, but it's time to punt. It's time to move on. And here's the reality. If Jordan, honestly, I think the way this team is going right now, whether it's Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers, I think it's the same end result at the end of the year. I think it's the same end result because there's no motivation for 12 to play here anymore, in my opinion. Right. So not the same fire and burn and competitiveness, he's going on his dark retreats and doing whatever. I just think he wants to take another team's money at this point. I don't even know if I believe in his willingness to, or his desire to play the game. I just think you move on, you cut your losses, like you said, addition by subtraction, and it's rebuild, man. Yeah. They've been carried a pretty long distance for the last few years based on halfway decent defensive play and then Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, right? They've been carried. It's just time to cut losses, and that's it. Green Bay Packer fans, I don't think you have playoff when Rodgers leaves and goes, because he is, whether he retires or goes somewhere else. I don't believe he's in Green Bay any longer. How do you really have playoff aspirations? You don't. You just need to build. We just need to build, and you play in a really cold weather stadium. Don't we want to build the offensive line, the defensive line, and get back to the ways of running the football and smash? Like, it should be a do you remember those times where Brett Favre never lost a game when the temperature was below 32 degrees at home in Lambeau? Like, never. Didn't lose games. Like, because it's a disadvantage. I've sat in that cold weather twice. Bro, it is mind-numbingly cold, let alone to try to focus on playing a game, and you're getting smacked around. Like, it's just time. It's time to move on.
Yeah. The only thing I want to say, did you see when I first started acting as GM? I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So let me say, did you? I know you're a Bill Burr fan. Have you seen his latest comedy special?
No, but I love Bill Burr.
Okay, so basically, it was like
I think
I've
probably seen pieces of it, but never like start to finish the whole thing.
The joke was you always can see how stressed out a person is because they're touching their face when they're talking. So the higher they touch their face, the more stressed out. So it's like, yeah, no, everything's okay. Hey, things are a little tough. I can't fucking take it. I can't fucking take it. Now you're at the top of your head and stuff. Yeah, dude, you have to go see it. It's a great comedy special.
It's funny
I definitely recommend that.
It's funny that you referenced that because I saw something related to John Lynch about that when they were asking him at the combine about like the quarterback situation. He's scratching up here while he's talking.
That was oh yeah, it's true though. That's true. That was a great
It's just like, have you ever seen the movie True Romance?
I have not.
What, bro? Christopher Walken goes into this spiel about the pantomimes, right? About lying and whatnot, and how like you can just like, if you understand what these are, like they're literally like muscles in your face and whatnot that you literally have no control over. And if you understand them, you can immediately tell if somebody's lying, like immediately. And that's basically what that is. It's like, it's a subconscious reaction that you have no idea you're even doing. Or like when people like look up and to the left or up and to the right, they're actually either calling a memory from their brain or calling a lie from their imagination. Yeah. Like, it's just things like that you need to look into. All right, let's hit the home run here. Let's wrap this up. We're going to go talk about the Minnesota Vikings. I am on the clock. So we're negative 15 and change in the cap, where we finished 13-4 last year, which is just followed by yet another early departure where we look really good during the regular season and fall flat on our face in the postseason. Step one towards freeing up money, we've completed already. We released Eric Kendricks for an $11 million savings. There's more to be done. I think, unfortunately, this is the year I have to say goodbye to the hometown kid in Adam Thielen. He counts for 19 million against the cap when all said and done. If I go pre-June, I got to do a post-June one here. That puts me at like $13.5 million savings by cutting them. Production just isn't matching up. I think we just need to get younger at this point to pair across from Jefferson. Osborne, is a rising talent for us. I'm also looking, when I think about opportunities to save money, I kind of want to approach Kirk and talk a little bit about like, bro, we need a home team discount here at this point because we need to go find you some talent. Like, I know you were the first to get those fully guaranteed contracts, but we need to subtract from that. And I'm thinking I'm getting a little nutty here. I think I'm approaching Harrison Smith about taking a cut because he's 19 million against the cap. And honestly, if he balks at that, then I'm just saying, see you later, Harrison Smith. Post June 1, you're another $15 million that I get to recognize. And this is another one where I think the Vikings are just missing their window, right? Like, now we're going to see regression. Like, you're not seeing 13, 14 wins from this team again next year. I just don't buy it. They're probably going to get a lot of primetime games. We know how Kurt does on primetime television, right? So we'll get a couple L's mixed in there.
Bro, you're the GM. You should be talking bad about
I call the truth, man. Like, bro, I want you to know how I value you. You want me to change how I value you and what I compensate you? Go win the fucking Monday Night Football game. You know what I mean? Go win the Sunday Night Football game. Win a playoff game. Like, that's how I feel. Like, that's what I pay you to do. If I was handed a trophy at the end of the regular season, I'd be thrilled with what's been going on, but I'm not. But I always want to look at my team and say, who do I bring back? Like, who's part of this core? Dalvin Tomlinson is somebody that I think I'm interested to keep that D line going. For what I am just, even as a GM, I love Alexander Madison. I love what he's brought to this team. Like, I literally can't even tell him and Dalvin Cook apart when they're on their field outside of the numbers. But he's getting up there, wear and tear, some injuries. Like, Madison doesn't miss a beat when he's in, and I think I want to be a more physical football team. These are people that I want to bring back. We all know I'm dealing with the headache that is Zadarius Smith, who's requested his release. I ain't granting it. You're under contract, dude. We'll figure that out later, but I'm not just going to let you go to another team to make them better and us get worse. Well, Zadarius, this is my public statement saying we'll work that out. We'll talk about it, but you're a Minnesota Viking until the foreseeable future. We gave you a lot of money. We're giving you a lot of money. Let's figure this out. I think a lot of my priority is just going to be focusing on defense overall. Even if Harrison Smith goes, I know we got Lewis Cine back there. I'm really high on Lewis Cine, but we need a little bit more depth in the secondary. We're going to have to fill Hendrick's spot. I want depth on the defensive line. I'm looking at people like Trey Flowers on the edge. I'm looking at like Kaiser White. In the secondary, names like Jonathan Jones, Byron Murphy, maybe even Marcus Epps, especially if I move on, from Harrison. They all carry appeal. They're solid players at position of need. But I want to go back to the offense real quick in my departure with Adam Thielen. We've been throwing this name around when we've been talking about teams. I think a piece that intrigues me is Mecole Hardman. I think he has dual purpose in this team. You've seen what he's done in the Kansas City offense, a little bit of a gimmick player, another guy who could take the top off of a defense, especially with so much focus on Justin Jefferson. I think it's an opportunity for him to shine. I think Mecole Hardman played his best ball when there was like Tyreek Hill opposite of him, right? Just taking those threats. Good player. This only works if I can get these contracts squared away. So those are kind of my priorities. That's all she wrote for the Minnesota Vikings.
I think for the Minnesota Vikings, people who have been fans of the Minnesota Vikings for a while, they're going to see a lot of those household names depart. I think Thielen's gone. I actually think Harrison Smith is gone. You already saw Kendricks depart. They got rid of him. And there's also talks about Dalvin Cook receiving some trade interest from outside teams. I think this is going to be interesting. I think they're going to, because there's a new GM, I think they're going to trying to get past from the old regime's roster building there. And I think they're going to bring in their own guys, and because last year was only year one, so a name might be interesting to see though, because they still want to be competitive and they still feel like they're a contender in a weaker NFC. I can picture DeAndre Hopkins ending up there. You replace basically you subtract your replacing Thielen's cap number with Hopkins. Be extremely attractive. Hopkins can be like that Andre Johnson to what he was to Hopkins. Like he can be that mentor to Justin Jefferson. But I think that's their main priority, is making sure they can afford Justin Jefferson in the years for next year.
100%. I mean, as the general manager, this is the problem that I'm faced with. Like you said, a lot of big names: Tomlinson, Kendricks, household names, Bradbury, Patrick Peterson gone, right? The legend that is Nick Mullins as our backup coach. No, I'm totally kidding. But there are names that you're going to move on from. And that's a really hard sell to your fans when you did just win 13 football games, right? Like, which is a really hard thing to do, to say, hey, I know we won 13 games, but we gotta scrap some of this, right? Like, we gotta reinvent the wheel a little bit with an aging quarterback. I mean, you're doing this all with an aging, right? I mean, Kirk's got to be 35, 36 years old at this point too, right? Like he's now been in Minnesota for how many years? 4, 5?
It was longer.
Let's find out. History. Since 18. So 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 5 years. So he's been with us for 5 years now. And it's the same song and dance like every time. So it's
That's why I think they're going to try to reconstruct this team differently.
yeah,
Because what they had in place to support Cousins before did not work, and I think they're going to make some changes. And a lot of they were holding on for dear life on that defensive side of the ball, trying to keep everyone together because they were such a great defense for so long.
yeah. Well,
But
it's no longer your Mike Zimmer defense, right?
exactly, and they're all older now. So.
Yeah. Well, this is the hard thing. This is the hard pill to swallow. That is the NFL when you are fans, right? Like, what did we talk about when we were talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like, all in. But we need to be all in. Like, we're this close, right? Look what the Rams have done when they were super competitive and they're like, we're this close, all in. Like, you can argue based on record and repeat playoff appearances, etc. Like, they're really close. So it's hard to say, like, why are we not I know the money states that we can't do more right now, but we also know that that number is a little fictitious and there's very creative ways to get around it. So it's a hard sell to say I'm parting with people who have been part of this. Because here's the truth, man. Like, unless you go get one of these top guys, are you really replacing Harrison Smith's production? Not right away, right? Like, are you Dalvin Cook walks? You replacing that production if he gets traded? Not right away. You know what I mean? Like, it's just those things that, and even Thielen. Let's say it's Thielen, Smith, and somehow Dalvin Cook gets traded. Right? He's 28. He'll be 29 this year. He's approaching the age of death for running backs in the NFL, and his name's not Frank Gore, who gets younger as he gets older. Like, there's things that you need to consider. This team looks drastically different, man. It looks drastically different just by those three names walking out the door.
Of course, and I agree. I kind of feel like the Minnesota Vikings are in like a no man's land.
That's what I'm saying. It's a rock and a hard place.
Eerily similar to what the Chargers were towards Philip Rivers' twilight of his career. They always felt like they had a chance to be in it because of Rivers, and that's why they always try to make makeshift changes to the offensive line. And I think that's what the Vikings are that's the road they're heading down. They're trying to hang on to dear life. They're trying to retool, not rebuild. But I don't know if they have enough talent on that team to really to be serious contenders. I know they were 13. Like, how are you going to say that they were 13-3? I mean, come on. How many one-score games did they win last year? Do you know that is the most flukiest thing ever? If they lost just 50% of their one-score games, that record's closer to 9 wins. All right, yeah. So I'm sorry, man. So don't hate me being a doubter on the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't. I'm looking at this roster.
Are you retooling or are you rebuilding? Because those are two totally different things in a division that, honestly, if you trot out the exact same roster, you have the opportunity to win the division again. That's a hard proposition.
I am retooling until I have Justin Jefferson under contract.
Because it's going to be a big...
No, but meaning like, how are you going to sell, if you don't have him under contract, how are you going to sell him a rebuild to sign with you?
Yeah. Well, you sell him a rebuild with, like, bro, you're the highest paid wide receiver ever.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? You know how wide receivers are. They're divas, man. They're like, just trade me. I still get my cap number. I still get my money. Just trade me.
Just trade me. Yeah, you're right. It's just it just feels like when I was putting my notes together for them, I was like, God, this just feels uncomfortable because, like, any fan, bro, like if you walked out of the season, even with that first round loss in the playoffs as a Chargers fan, but you were 13-4, you're feeling good going into the next season. And, like, I'm an unbiased opinion, right? Like, I'm not even a fan of this team that has sold myself on false hope like I do with my own team all the time. Like, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this don't feel good, man. This could just as easily be a seven win team next year if these things happen, It's tough. It's tough. All right. That wraps us up with the NFC North. We're going to be back in the next day or so covering the AFC and NFC West teams. Lou, like I always do, rely on you right where they can find us.
WTF Pod NFL on Instagram, Twitter, and Weston, hit them up with the YouTube.
We're Talking Football Podcast. Subscribe, like, sign up for the notifications. You're all friends. You're all family. Help us out, right? How big of a deal it is. You can ignore it like everybody else does with the notifications. No, I'm just playing. There's good content here. You should listen to it. For novice football fans, for advanced football fans, I promise we covered across all levels. Give us a shot. You won't be disappointed. But that wraps us up for this evening. Till next time.